Okay, so today we're looking at a game called Sky Jinks, a 1982 release for the Atari 2600 video computer system, developed by Bob Whitehead and published by Activision, and that's as far as I'll go. So Sky Jinks is a single-player game where you control a little plane and your main goal is to pass the number of pylons as quickly as possible. Seems confusing at first because you figure fly past all these trees and balloons and stuff until you reach the end and try not to crash into anything. And then you wonder why the game says you cleared the track in like 5 minutes when it obviously took you less time. And this is where having the manual helps, or in my case, playing this off the Activision Anthology disc for PS2, which includes said manual. So the way Sky Jinks works is that you have to bank around these pylons. Fly to the right side of the red pylons, and then fly to the left side of the blue pylons, and you go back and forth until you cleared a set number of pylons. Crashing into things slows you down, and passing pylons on the wrong side will net you a 3-second penalty for each one, which adds up once you've passed a set number of pylons, of which there are 5 games to determine that number, with Game 1 lasting 25 pylons, Game 2 lasting 50, Game 3 lasting 75, and Games 4 and 5 each lasting 99. The first 4 games are preset courses, while the 5th game will throw randomly generated tracks, and toggling the left difficulty switch will determine whether trees will impede your flight path or not. Controls involve moving the stick left or right to steer your plane, while holding down the button will increase your speed until you let go of the button, and it works well enough within the scope of the game. Sky Jinks claims that it's like flying a real aeroplane, and I find that claim a bit suspect since if I were to crash into something in Sky Jinks, the plane merely slows down. Whereas if a real aeroplane were to crash into something, never mind. Sky Jinks is one of those Atari 2600 video games like Barnstorming or Dragster, where the challenge comes mostly from trying to clear the course in the fastest time possible while attempting to fly properly and not crash into anything. It's not a particularly taxing game either. If anything, it's one of the more relaxing games that I've played, and there's always that element of replayability that's driven entirely by trying to beat your personal best. Sure, you've managed to clear the course and pass every pylon correctly, but you could surely do better than that. And that's where the driving force comes from with this game. Though I will say that I was able to score a patch on my first playthrough of the game when I didn't know how to play the game properly, so I don't know. Maybe the standards were low back in the day. Now, if you want a slightly challenging game, you could toggle the difficulty switch, which determines whether the trees will block your intended flight path or not. That'll shake things up a slight bit. Exciting, action-packed, thrill-a-minute, and intense gameplay are not words I would use to describe Sky Jinks, but that doesn't mean it can't be a fun little time attack sort of deal. And sometimes, I just like to fly this plane around casually without concerns for best times or whatever. Because Sky Jinks really is a relaxing little game. I am at peace when I play Sky Jinks, so that's a positive in my book. Sky Jinks sports some decent quality graphics by 2600 standards with some nicely rendered trees and balloons that also have some shadows, which adds to the terrain. I do like the little details applied, such as the shadow changes as a result of your ascent or descent of your plane, and there's even a hint of layering foreground elements, such as your plane flying beneath the stray cloud that passes by or behind a balloon, which is a neat little detail that you might not even notice unless you really pay attention. Sound is somewhat minimal, a variably humming engine, sound that's neither too harsh nor too smooth. It's somewhere down the middle that doesn't detract from the experience. It's fairly quiet. Oh, and crashes. Those have sounds too, and they sound like crashes and stuff. Overall, Sky Jinks is a relatively simplistic but relaxing and fairly satisfying little game. Some folks might look at a Sky Jinks and consider this somewhat dull and unexciting, so it won't appeal to everyone. But what Sky Jinks does, it does relatively well, and hey, I had fun with it, so yeah, fine game indeed. Give it a shot if you're into this sort of thing. That's all I could really say.